Good evening and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as what I would describe as a very strong brief from Erik ten Hag hits the press in relation to Jadon Sancho. Is it too far? We'll look at what's been said today and we'll work our way through that. Also, let's have a talk about Beckham. Could he be the rescue of this sale to Qatar? I want to talk about that as well. And also a little bit or a lot of bit of overhype in relation to certain players at the weekend who are suddenly being championed like they're the saviours of Manchester United, when over the last 2 years, let's be honest, they've been very, very bad. I think you know who I'm talking about, and some of the media today, radio, TV, written, has been a farce, an absolute farce. I heard one journalist today saying that the United team could learn a lot from Scott McTominay because of his dedication, passion and hard work. And mentioned Casemiro not having the right dedication and hard work. I mean, this is like Casemiro baking a cake. In fact, this is like Casemiro going to the shops with his own money, buying the ingredients, making a brilliant cake, doing the icing, making everything fantastic, and then he's absolutely knackered. Scott McTominay walks in, puts a cherry on the top and takes the credit for the whole fucking cake. I can't believe what I'm hearing today. Scott McTominay deserves a lot of credit for Saturday. It was fantastic. But I despair at the modern media. I despair at the modern media. You know, discard Casemiro, he's a bag of shit, and Scott McTominay's the future. He's 27 in December. He's been here for years, and he's not been that good. Maybe there's a future for him, but how did we go from discard Casemiro to McTominay's the future? We don't even want McTominay to play in the holding midfield role. I mean, I was listening to it and reading stuff today, and I was like, this couldn't be more inaccurate if it tried. It's like Lukaku's first touch. It just smacks you in the face. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, listening and reading. Give McTominay credit for the goal on Saturday. Fantastic. But let's not pretend he's fucking 18 years of age in the future. Absolutely incredible stuff. But anyway, let's get into more important things. We can come back to that. But I mean, I just, you know what it is? You know what it is as well? It's Brexit FC again. It's the same old overhyping of British players and any chance they've got to go in on Martial, Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro, David De Gea, Rafael Varane, straight in. But anything to do with a British player, boy, you bullies, you hate him. Anything they do well, they're world class. This is the future. And I'm like, can we just not get a bit of stability and intelligence here? Like, we've been shit for 10 years. And now you're not a proper fan if you say players aren't good enough. It's not being a proper fan anymore. That's not a proper fan anymore, apparently. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Anyway, let's get moving. I want to start off with this story, the big story that's, I would say, been briefed from the club. It's coming from two separate journalists, and I think there'll be more tomorrow. One in the Mail, one in the ESPN, Rob Dawson, Matt Hughes. This is what has been said. Is this too much? Is this too far? Ten Hag is demanding that Jadon Sancho make both a public apology and say sorry in front of his teammates before he can return to the squad. A stance which has the full backing of his employees, but 5 weeks after the Arsenal game, there is no sign of an apology from Jadon Sancho. Ten Hag is understood to have told the club that the attitude of other players in training has improved since Jadon Sancho was exiled, and Manchester United will look to offload Jadon Sancho in January after being told Erik ten Hag that he is a disruptive influence on the club's other players. That's harsh. Is it just a little bit far? Is it too far or is it right? Look, that's not standoff about an apology. That is, we're better off without you. You're a negative influence. The team and squad are better without you since you've been exiled. And also, if you want to come back, you can apologise to me, the fans and the players. Is it too far? I'm asking the question. I don't know. Let's do a little bit of a poll on this. I haven't, is it too far? Yes or no? I'm just going to call it that. There's a little bit more as well. So every time Ten Hag gets a pathetic win, he demands an apology from Sancho again, says Da Vinci. is it too far? Is it not too far? Rob Dawson goes on to say that suggestions that Jadon Sancho issued an apology immediately after the incident, but it was not accepted, are far from the truth. There's a feeling growing at Manchester United that Jadon Sancho's career at the club may already be over, and that's from Rob Dawson. But look, it's... you know, a lot of people hate the international break. I hate it as well. But one thing I don't mind about the international break is you do start to get good stories out of Man United, because it's so relentless for the journalists and the leaks and everybody else when we're playing a game every 3 days to get stuff out. And as soon as you got the international break, players go on international duty, talk to teammates, talk to friends, things slip out, and then the club wants stuff to come out, other people want stuff to come out. I don't know. I mean, my personal feeling on this, and I'm reacting to it. I knew about it. I knew we were talking about it at 8 o'clock, but I purposely kept my mind off it and thought about other things. But, you know, when I read that, Ten Hag is demanding that Sancho makes both a public apology and a sorry in front of his teammates before he can return to the squad. I've got to be honest, my initial reaction to that is that Ten Hag knows full well he won't get an apology. Have you ever been in a situation where you fall out with somebody and you don't actually want them apologise? You don't want them to apologise because you don't want to make friends with them. I've been in that position before, and I think that's what Ten Hag's doing here. Because I think it is completely not going to happen, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But you know, if Ten Hag's stance is now, it's not just an apology to me, it's to the people of Manchester. And actually, forget that. It's to every fan. Oh, you've got to do an apology tour in the States, India, Australia. I want you to apologise to everyone in front of the dressing room, and then sing a song of apology by I want you to say apology to me, apology to the staff, apology to the fans. Then I'm going to get the players in. I want you to apologise, and then I want you to sing sorry by Boyzone, and mean it. And if you don't, all your other apologies don't mean anything. You're still exiled. I think that Sancho fell off when Haaland was better than him, says Sigma. I think it's an apology that Ten Hag has set something that he knows won't happen. Look, if me and my missus fell out and I said, you you need to say sorry, then I said, but if you do, she wouldn't say sorry anyway. But if she did say sorry, also go down the pub, get me 4 takeaway pints, and then go next door to the Chinese, and then we're going to watch whatever I want on Netflix, and then after, consensually we might chill. She's never going to apologise. She's never going to apologise. And I think that's what's happening with Ten Hag here. He's setting the barriers of, I mean, like Maka says, they're both being babies. I agree. I think it's so embarrassing that a football club, and you've sort of preempted me there. How is the football club letting this happen? I think this is, again, an indication of how badly this football club is run. Because if I was the director of football or I was the CEO, I wouldn't. I mean, look, this is a paper story. Can I just say, not everything in the papers are true. But we've got 2 or 3 outlets all saying the same thing today, which suggests it's coming from a source close to the manager, a source close to the club, or a source close to a player. Either way, it's been briefed out to more than 2 outlets, which I think we all know is a bit suspicious. So look, it might not be completely true, but I still think the club's handled it badly, because I think it's embarrassing, and that's why I asked Romano this afternoon if he's ever experienced stuff like this, because it's embarrassing. You've got a player that costs £75 million on £350,000 a week, exiled from the first team squad. You've got a team that's mid-table, in huge debt, he's got no money to spend, putting him into exile, and United are sat there going, we're happy with this. We back the manager on this. We're happy with this. I mean, I don't want to get a bit serious, but when people go to war, you need a mediator. And it might not be easy to be a mediator, but you should always be a mediator and try and resolve these things, because war is bad. And this situation between Sancho and Ten Hag is not war, far from it, but it's bad. And I tell you what, if I was the CEO or I was the director of football, I'd be working relentlessly on this to resolve it, because it's an embarrassment. It's childish. It's immature. There's a very, very clear way for this to work. You get them both in the room, they air their grievances, and I say, I'm the fucking CEO. I pay your wages and I pay your wages. Right? It doesn't matter who I think's right or wrong. You are a value to this football club, and you are 23 and you want to build a career. And you are trying to rebuild this football club. And this playing out publicly, as it is doing nobody any favours, right? So this is what's going to happen. You and you are going to stay in this room until we resolve something that we can walk forward to. I would suggest you come back into training, you allow it, you respect each other, and we support you in leaving the club in January, and we support you in getting a replacement in January. Because at the moment, you are devaluing him every single minute that he's exiled, and you are devaluing yourself and your reputation every minute that you're exiled. But this is not happening at Manchester United. It doesn't happen at Manchester United because we're a badly run football club. And it's embarrassing. It's very, very embarrassing. Sean Turner says, I do believe Sancho should apologise, but he obviously feels what was said about him was wrong. And looking at Erik Ten Hag team choices over the past few weeks, you can kind of see some truth in it. It won't get resolved, says Sean Turner. Dara, welcome to the Members Club. So if you're tuning in a little bit late, let me just summarise these comments. Erik Ten Hag is demanding that Sancho not only apologises to him, but does a public apology and apologise to his teammates in the dressing room. He's also let it out, according to the Mail, that he's told everybody that the attitude of the players in the training has improved since Sancho was exiled, and he wants to get rid of him because he's a disruptive influence. Suggestions that Sancho had issued an apology before is not accepted. Can I just say as well, that in there about the apology publicly and to players, okay, maybe you don't think that's too far, but I tell you what I think is a little bit of a concern. The team is better without him, and the attitude in training is better because he is a disruptive influence. That is well and truly bitchy. Whether it's true or not, it's bitchy. That is basically saying that the whole attitude at training is better with Jadon Sancho not there because he's a disruptive influence. That may be true, maybe not be true, but should that be put out there? Do we need that being put out there? I don't know. 56% of you say it's not too far. 44% of you say it is too far. I just go back to, and Diablo says Sancho is shit. Balls to how we treat him. Okay. Look, it's all about opinion. It's all about opinion. I just think that there's a way of dealing with stuff like this. And, you know, if somebody leaves my business and they're disruptive and they're negative and they cause problems and they're a backstabber and everything like that, I'm not going to go and leak to the press. Well, nobody'd be interested anyway. But I'm not going to come on the United Stands or get Beth to come on the United Stand and say such and such was negative, a backstabber that caused all these problems. Because there's a level of professional. You want to be professional. And you don't want to fuck them over either. You know, they're a human being. So I'm a bit concerned about that story. And if I was Man United, I'd move quickly to, you know, let people know that that's not true. Because that's not about football. That's about an individual. I mean, you've just whacked... I mean, it can't be coming from Ten Hag. It can't be coming from the club when you think about it. Because if it says what it says, the attitude in training is better without Sancho there because he's a disruptive influence in training. You're basically just whacked £50 million off his value. You've just let the whole world know Jadon Sancho's a problem in training. It doesn't make any sense, does it? So I think it's too far if it's come out from the manager. And I don't think it needed to come out as well. Can I just say, don't think it needed to come out. We've just beat Brentford. There's a hell of a lot of work to do. Jadon Sancho's not part of the team. Do we need a story about Jadon Sancho and his disruptiveness and his bad attitude and all the things he's got to do to come back into the team? Matt Hunt says it's probably facts. Maybe it is. But I just think it's a little bit like what came out a few weeks ago about Sancho's arrogant, Sancho's up and down, Sancho's moody. You know, I don't think that's fair. That's character assassination. I don't need that. My only issue with Sancho was that he never should have done the tweet publicly. I said that to Fabrizio this afternoon. I've said it to you countless times. My opinion is the public tweet was bang out of order. I know players who've said the same thing that Sancho has said publicly to managers privately, Man United players, over the last 6 years to 3 different managers. There have been players, some of them are still at the club, who have been to managers and said, I'm not being treated fairly. I'm not getting enough game time. You've got favourites. That has been said, but it never came out publicly, and that's fine. I don't mind if Jadon Sancho waits till Monday morning, goes into Carrington and says, what you said publicly about me was bang out of order. I do work hard in training. You've just got your favourites. You didn't need to do that. I want to leave in January. You're bang out of order for doing that. You can find me, do whatever. But you know what? I could have gone public. I felt like going public, but that would be unprofessional. I'm not going to do that. But I tell you what, I'm not happy with what you've said, and I want out of this football club. At least he hasn't gone public and lost the fans. And I think that's where Sancho went wrong. But in relation to, I think Rory said it, absolutely. Da Vinci says, if Sancho apologises, the board might make Ten Hag keep him at United, says Da Vinci. Yeah, he's not going to apologise, is he? Sancho should try to undermine the authority of Erik Ten Hag. He did. And with or without him, we're still crap, says Haroon. I think with Sancho, from Sancho's side of things, and I know people who are pretty close to it, they just say, look, Sancho ain't apologising because he actually... You know, there may be regret, there may not be regret for the public post, but he feels that Ten Hag undermined him publicly, and Ten Hag should apologise to him, and that he has his favourites. You know what? It would have been an interesting situation if Jadon Sancho hadn't put the post out publicly, and then you've got Ten Hag who said it publicly. But I would always say the manager can say what they bloody well like, whether they should do it or not. They can do what they want. And also, Kana says, probably misreading the comment about the attitude. I think what they are saying is the disciplinary process has had a positive impact. Well, I don't think I'm misreading it. Ten Hag is understood to have told the club that the attitude of other players in training is improved since Sancho was exiled. They will look to offload him in January after Ten Hag being told by Ten Hag that he is a disruptive influence on the club's other players. You know, that's pretty damning, isn't it? You know, he's a disruptive influence on the club's other players, and the attitude in training has improved since Sancho was exiled. I mean, if that doesn't say Sancho's the problem, then, you know, it should be written a little bit better than that. And I think that's too far. I think that's a bit unfair, really, because I don't think it helps anybody. But thanks for that input, Kana. I mean, I personally, I might be completely wrong here, but I personally feel that we're not that far away, if it was possible, from a Ronaldo, Piers Morgan interview. I don't think he can do it. But having said that, Cristiano Ronaldo was under contract for Manchester United when he did that interview. So United need to be, this is why they should be taking the lead on this. United need to be very, very careful because, you know, Jadon Sancho's probably sat there tonight and the last 5 weeks going, this is unfair. I've been treated really, really badly, whether you agree with him or not. And at some, you know, what's he got to lose? And, you know, I just need to be very, very careful with this. I don't like those sort of things. I've been a victim of that in my life as well, where people, you know, sort of hang you out to dry publicly, don't give you a right to reply, don't want to, you know, give you a chance, don't want to be fair. Look, Ten Hag obviously has a huge issue with Sancho, and Sancho obviously has a huge issue with Ten Hag, but there is a duty of care to the player from Manchester United, and I think that they've handled this badly from what I know. I back the manager, but I do wonder if the comments are due to frustration, like the Casemiro comment after the game, says Lily. And any news on Luke Shaw or Malacia? Loved the show and great EAF episode. You smashed it, says Ants. A lot of people enjoyed that episode. I'm gutted, but we'll be back on Wednesday. Rashford also has a bad attitude, says Haroon. Says who? We don't really need Sancho. We're probably at the point where Palestri and Garnacho need more playtime, says Haf. I don't disagree with that. Great content as always, much love. United fans keep telling me they want RDZ, but it's an unfair comparison. He works under the best board and captain in the league, De Zerbi. Continue rebuilding to start competing for titles again, says Play Then Say. Sir Alex would have kicked Sancho out on his ass the second he sent that tweet publicly, says Jack. Well, that's an irrelevance, Jack, in many ways. I don't think we can go back to, you know, what Sir Alex would do. We've got to look at it from what Ten Hag would do, what the club would do. Most professional athletes these days never make the right decision due to greed and bad mentality. We need a Keane to sort it out, says Reese. I back the manager, says Lily, but I do wonder if the comments are due to frustration, like the Casemiro comment after the game. Can I just say, you know, the Casemiro comment, Ten Hag is the manager, and I love Ten Hag, and I will back the manager. But I do not like the treatment of Casemiro at the weekend, and I do not like the treatment of Casemiro by the press and certain, players, ex-players, sorry. I think it's massively disrespectful. I do think that we're still learning about Ten Hag, and in learning about him, there will be things about him that we probably wouldn't do, and there'll be a lot about him that we do like. I don't think that, I think Casemiro, obviously there was a falling out in the dressing room. You don't take Casemiro off at half time unless you're furious with him. And I get that. And I think Casemiro is a professional who loves football, who will take it on the chin and deal with it. But I think he's been disrespected in a way because there's no need to comment about Casemiro like that. This is a player that, I've watched football all my life. Casemiro last season probably kept Ten Hag in a job. He was the fundamental part. He should have got Player of the Year. He was the player for 3/4 of the season that basically ran the defence and ran the midfield. And we got where we were because of Casemiro. He did start falling off towards the end of the season, if I'm being honest, and he's not been very good this season. But I think people have very short memories, and I think that, as I said at the start of the video, this McTominay loving, and Casemiro could learn from McTominay. I mean, fucking hell, that's like some guy who can play the piano down the road, saying Gary Barlow could learn a few things from him. One of the best UK songwriter piano players in recent history. So Scott McTominay is going to teach Casemiro a few things about passion and dedication, is he? Maybe Casemiro could show Scott McTominay around his trophy room. And that's not against McTominay and it's not against Casemiro. It's just stupid media. It's sensationalist claptrap that will not help Man United progress. Because we get locked in on moments. And there was an amazing moment on Saturday. And suddenly that moment is going to win us the Champions League, the Premier League, and make those players who won us the game at the end better than anybody that's ever wore a Man United shirt. Because we overreact to shit. And then they wonder when fans get pissed off and resentful with players and the club when things go back to shit. But I don't know. Sir Alex Ferguson, I mean, if you want a Sir Alex Ferguson story, Sir Alex Ferguson would never, ever have said what was said about Sancho. And he would never say what was said about Casemiro. He's not like that. But, we're not in that era now. Erik Ten Hag is the boss. And these players have to react to it. Kevin says Casemiro doesn't control games for us. Well, no, he doesn't anymore. I mean, you're not listening to me, or are you just typing without listening? I'm talking about Casemiro last season was our player of the year, hands down. If you don't agree with that, you weren't watching football last season with us, were you? He's not been very good this season. I think the substitution at halftime was justified. What I'm talking about is the hype and claptrap nonsense that's come out since then about Casemiro's bad attitude and, let's get rid of him, let's bin him off. I just don't, on the one hand, I've constantly had people tell me you criticise players too much. And on the other hand, I don't actually criticise players that I think have earned the right to play for this club. And I think they've earned the respect. I think David De Gea earned respect. And the amount of people that have told me you're not a proper fan because you slag players off. And I've got their screenshots mentally and physically of what they said about David De Gea. I've seen what they've said about Bruno Fernandes. I've seen what they've said about Anthony Martial. I've seen what they've said about Paul Pogba. But you say it about Harry Maguire. You say it about Marcus Rashford. You say it about Scott McTominay. You're not a real fan. You're not a real fan because some of them have come through the youth setup and they've got a British passport. You're not a real fan because you slag your players off. You don't slag your own players off. I don't like that. Don't slag your own players off. And yet, we've all got receipts of them doing it against foreign players or other players. So, look, I ain't got a problem with people being critical of players. Casemiro played crap on the weekend and he deserved to be subbed off. David De Gea had some bad games for Manchester United last season, but they've also had a number of very important games, and I think they earn the respect. And I don't think they get that respect. And I think we overhype shit. But, that's my opinion. It doesn't have to be your opinion. The point is, I do worry about what I would say United is organised chaos. 1 week we're talking about Rashford. Then we're talking about Casemiro. Then we're talking about Onana. Then we're talking about Maguire because he's been on international duty and been booed by England fans. Then we're talking about Sancho. Then it's Anthony. Then it's Sancho again. And I'm like, we just seem to lurch from one story to another. And if I'm being absolutely blunt, we're controlling these stories. I don't mean us. I mean, like, these stories are in the press today about Jadon Sancho. Why are these stories coming out about Jadon Sancho? What does he's not going to play? He's not going to play against Sheffield United. He's not going to play against Man City. Why is this story out there? And I think we almost embrace and encourage, as a football club, these stories. And I think sometimes, back with Boyzone again, you say it best when you say nothing at all. I don't think every question needs to be answered. When Erik ten Hag gets asked about transfers of players that he's trying to buy, he says we don't talk about players from other clubs. So when somebody says to him, why did you take Casemiro off at half time? You just say, look, we won the game. Thank you, bye. You don't need to say, because I wanted to play better football. I mean, so basically you're saying that Casemiro's shit. Well, we all saw that. We don't need to know it. I'm not sure what's going on in the media right now. It's almost like they're taking pleasure from our demise to make up for decades of our past glory, says Nick P. And I think Erik ten Hag can sometimes be too honest at times, but he is Dutch, and that's kind of what they're like. Do you think culturally Erik ten Hag needs to adapt, says Total Football? Well, no, that's what I was basically saying. It's like, we don't know, do we? We don't know how, we're still learning about Erik ten Hag, and I back him to the hilt. I want him to do well. But I just think sometimes we do invite the pressure ourselves, and we don't need to do it. We don't need to do it. It was a very good interview with Fabrizio Romano this afternoon, by the way. Do give it a listen in relation to transfers and everything that's going on. But there was one thing somebody said. Somebody in the chat said, I bet you're talking about Gary Neville again. Well, no, I think Gary Neville actually... Look, I'll read some of the comments about Gary Neville today. Like, there were some things that he said today that I actually really, really agreed with. So there was some, obviously works for Sky, so he was obviously having his say on Manchester United. This is some of the things he had to say. I wasn't going to bring it into the show. We're going to talk about Beckham in a minute. But this is what he had to say. Man United will not make top 5 in the Premier League this season, Gary Neville has told Sky. I don't think Man United will finish in the top 5 this season, but they proved me wrong last season after having a very poor start. I agree. I completely agree. And he goes on to say they're way off it, and I'm surprised because 7 or 8 weeks ago I had them third place again. Absolutely agree with him. Absolutely agree with him. Gary Neville's I thought he was brilliant in the documentary for David Beckham. He's a legend of this football club, and I actually like him. I just will call anybody out because that's what we're meant to do. We're meant to be honest about the game and the club we love. It's not personal. It's just debate. And these people can quite honestly have a debate and a pint, and they'll find, there's no issues at all. But I agree with him on that. I think that we are miles off. It's a harsh reality on a Monday morning after such a high on Saturday afternoon, but we are miles off. And I said this last night, and I said it yesterday as well. I think we are miles off. And I don't put us in the top 5 because there's 7 teams better than us at the moment, and most of them are a few points ahead of us as well. So, yeah, I agree with that. I do agree with that point. He also said, I felt sorry for Brentford because I liked them a lot, but it was huge in the sense of it being such a depressing start to the season, and by no stretch of the imagination does beating Brentford at home with 2 goals in the 93rd and 97th minute means that everything is okay. Far from it. It's a mess. Very honest. Very honest, and not done in a way that's inflammatory, just, very on the ball. He spoke about Andre Onana. He said the goalkeeper hasn't settled in quickly. That's a problem. If your goalkeeper isn't settled and there's a bit of instability around, it does create problems. I've had it at Manchester United, of course. And look, he's played right back. So, the relationship with the goalkeeper for a full-back and the centre-backs is more important than anybody else. And he will have experienced that when Peter Schmeichel left, because that was after the 99 and Neville was playing then, and he will have seen it with Barthez and Bosnich and everybody else, so he's spot on. He said Chelsea are probably nearer to top 5 than Man United at the moment because they can go on a run and they've got some really talented players coming through. Their age is a lot better than Manchester United. Again, we don't put Chelsea in there, do we? We go Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Spurs, Brighton, Newcastle, Villa, Chelsea. So, could be 8 teams better than us, and we want to position ourselves in 4th place. I don't see it. At the moment. I hope Saturday's a spark, but I don't see it. What else did he have to say? I was happy for Scott McTominay. The stuff I've seen on social media over the last few weeks, that's when it's the classic club is falling apart, when you start to have your fan base and media people questioning the work ethic of a kid who has come through the academy. I mean, I actually, I've not read that before. Well, I read it this morning, but I've not thought about it until now. I was happy for Scott McTominay. The stuff I've seen on social media over the last few weeks, that's when it's the classic a club is falling apart. When you start to have your fan base and media people questioning the work ethic of a kid who has come through the academy. Well, I don't know, because it's only a statement from Gary. I do agree with him because, the club is falling apart. And when he says it's a classic that a club's falling apart, when you start to have your fan base and media people questioning the work ethic of a kid who's come through the academy, he's actually calling himself out as well. So I don't take that he's being, morally, I'm a super fan. Anybody who calls out players, I mean, maybe he was, I don't know. I haven't heard the interview, but if he said it in a way that, your club's falling apart when the media and the fan base are taking a pop at a kid, and you shouldn't do that. Well, he's not a kid. He's 27 in 2 months' time. He's also not been very good for the last 18 months. And what's coming through the academy got to do with anything? We like academy players to come through, like Neville and Beckham and Rashford and everything. But if they're not good enough, like Chris Eagles and Kieran Richardson and, Chong and anybody else, we don't keep them. You discard them. There's nothing wrong with saying they're not good enough. You don't give them a free pass because they're from the academy. And also, he has to include himself in that. Because when he says, a club's falling apart when fans are turning on players and media are turning on players and questioning their work ethic, was it not him in the Liverpool game on national TV who wrongly accused the captain of Man United for wanting to come off? So, he's done it himself. So, I don't disagree with him. The club is falling apart because fans are being honest about players who they don't think are good enough to wear the shirt. And Gary did it himself to Bruno Fernandes on live TV. What I would say about people questioning Scott McTominay's work ethic, I've never heard anybody do this. And if you have done it, I'm on Gary's side here. You should never question Scott McTominay's work ethic because, that's the one thing he's got, passion. Having said that, was it not 2 games, Brighton and Bayern Munich, where he just looked like he had lead in his feet? So, look, let's not start pretending that any Man United fan that said McTominay's not good enough is not a Man United fan. Because anybody who says that, it won't take you long to find a tweet or a comment from them, ex-player or fan, that has slagged off Bruno or De Gea or Martial or Pogba. This is why, for years, I've said this top red bullshit needs to be filed in the bin. Because everybody's a fucking hypocrite. Everybody's criticised players they don't think are good enough. And everybody champions players that they think are good enough and slags everyone off for slagging them off. I sort of did it a few minutes ago because I like Casemiro. And, I want to protect Casemiro. And, I might be like, well, people who are having a go at him aren't grateful. It's just, you should never start throwing stuff about, when fans are turning on their players, they've got a problem. It's Man United's a problem. Gary's right, it is falling apart. The club's a mess and everybody slagged everybody off. And, we've seen Roy Keane slagging players off. We've seen, as I said, Gary's done it himself. There's no problem with that. There's no problem with that. Just don't pretend that you're holier than thou. Everybody's done it. Everybody has favourites. Ten Hag's got favourites. That's why Jadon Sancho's in trouble. Anyway, moving it on. There was something else I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, I want to talk about this Beckham thing. So I was interviewing Fabrizio Romano the other day, this afternoon, and we were talking about the sale of Manchester United to Qatar. TalkSport have come out and said that David Beckham has been offered a global ambassador role for the Qatari bids if he supports it. And I didn't really have time to talk about it because we were nearly coming towards the end of the show with Fabrizio. So I thought, well, I'll bring it into the show tonight. Look, David Beckham was a massive part of why we got the Olympics in this country in 2012. David Beckham ascends football more than any English player, I think, that exists at this moment in time. He is a player, or well, he's not a player anymore. He is a person that can, you know, and has done. He can influence bids. Like, as I say, the Olympics. This is, you know, he's a very influential character. I'm amazed he's not been knighted. Actually, I'm amazed by that. But that's by the by. So look, if David Beckham can do anything to get the Glazers out of this football club, then that's not a bad thing, and I don't want that to be seen as a bad thing. And I think that if Qatar got hold of the Manchester United and David Beckham could be a part of that, then obviously I think we're all going to back it. And after they've got hold of Man United, if he's given a global ambassador role for Manchester United, incredible. And I think that would suit him because he's got other things to do. My only concern is, and it doesn't matter whether it's David Beckham, Rio Ferdinand. I mean, I wouldn't want Rio anywhere near it, to be honest with you. I don't think he's on that level. But David Beckham, Gary Neville, Cristiano Ronaldo, Wayne Rooney, whoever you want to say as a GOAT of Manchester United that you would like, that could be involved in Man United, as long as they're not involved in the football decision making, I don't really care. But I don't want any ex-player involved in recruitment, director of football, coaching, anything like that. Because, and I might be in the minority, but it's just a common sense, calm, realistic take that I have. What we've never done since Sir Alex Ferguson took over is we've never done what Brighton did. We've never done what Man City have done. We've never done what Newcastle are doing now. We've never just gone and got the best CEO, the best director of football or sporting director, the best scouts, you know, the best setup. And in football, some sporting directors are ex-players. Some CEOs have played the game, but the vast majority haven't, because it's a specialist position. Some of these sporting directors start in their 20s analysing football, scouting football, watching football. They're not playing football, because playing football is something very different. They're watching football. They're consuming football. They're looking at different styles. They're analysing. They're analytical minds. And that is what Manchester United need at Manchester United. And we've never really done it. So that's what I want to see with Manchester United. I want to see Manchester United recruit the very best players out there. And, you know, it's interesting because Dan Ashworth, who is a football director, formerly of Brighton and is currently at Newcastle, is considered to be one of the best football directors in football. He played for Eastbourne Town 17 times. That's it. Eastbourne Town is who he played for 17 times. Who are they? I haven't got a fucking clue. Haven't got a clue. Got no idea. Well, I do. I know who it is. But you know, I think it's a clear indicator that, you know, there are no requirements to play the game in the positions that we need. I'm just actually whacking in another name here because he is somebody that's been linked to us. What's his name? Where is he? Here we go. Andrea Berta, I don't think he ever played the game either. He's been linked to us as well. So, you know, we need to get specialists. And unfortunately, we were the blueprint up until about 2010. And then everyone copied us. I think that there is a blueprint in football now. It exists at Brighton. It exists at Manchester City. And it exists at Newcastle in this Premier League. You could say it exists at Liverpool as well. These players, these people, they don't necessarily play football. Paul Mitchell played quite a lot of football. I think he played for, definitely played for, I think he played for Wigan. He didn't play a hell of a lot of football, but, you know, he had to retire at 27. That's the key. And that happens a lot with managers as well. Paul Mitchell played the game, but he had to retire at 27. So you then have to go and have another career, don't you? And look, we've gone on down a path I never thought we would go down, but I want Manchester United to go down that path. I want Manchester United to go and get the best director of football, the best CEO, the best, you know, coaching staff, the best fitness people. We're so far off in so many areas. And I think there was a time where I, even on this channel, and I know a lot of you, would have gone, yeah, get Roy Keane as an assistant coach. Yeah, Ollie's at the wheel, you know, get Carricky in as well. And you go, this is the dream, because there's nothing better. I don't think there'd be anything better. I mean, there's never going to be anything better than 99. But can you imagine Man United winning the double, or the Premier League, or the Champions League, with fantastic football and Roy Keane as the manager? It would be brilliant. That's fantasy. That's fantasy. I mean, it's fantasy in reality, but it's also a fantasy in your heart. It would be great. But that's what we need to do. We need to recruit the best. And it's something that United just haven't done. And a lot of that is down to nepotism and favouritism as well. Ed Woodward never should have been our director of football for long. But our last two... No, he wasn't our director of football. He was our CEO. Our last two CEOs, Richard Arnold and Ed Woodward, used to work at the bank that helped the Glazers buy Man United. That's a fact. Like, you know, that is a fact. Our last two CEOs worked at the bank that helped Manchester United be bought by the Glazers. Is that coincidence? Or are they not football people? They're just people that help the Glazers buy Man United. I mean, some clubs have got CEOs who know football like the back of their hand. We recruited two people who worked in banking and helped the Glazers buy the club. That's our last two CEOs. There's so much that this football club can improve on because we're so bad at so many things. Like, people say, how do you get into a top four race? How do you challenge Man City? Well, it's difficult, but the great thing about Man United is we've got so much wrong, horrifically wrong, over the last 10 years. A lot of very simple decisions will improve us massively. Can we just arrogantly sign up the Brighton back room, offer them a chance to do the same but at a bigger club, or at least copy them, says Nick? Well, yeah, you think you could do that, but that would take competent people. Arsenal and Barcelona appoint ex-players as their directors. Even City's director used to play in Barcelona, says Mohammed. But Mohammed, are we all going to bow down to you now and say, oh, you've solved it, you're right? I've just given you 3 director of footballs that never played at a decent level. Some of them never played at all. So you've gone and found... What did I say, Mohammed? I said some directors of footballs and CEOs have played the game, but a lot of them haven't. And I don't want United... All right, then, let's play the game. Let's go. Mohammed, come on. You've started a conversation now. Who are United going to recruit who's played for Manchester United to be our director of football or our CEO? Come on, we're all waiting for you, Mohammed. What ex-Man United player is going to come in as our CEO, and what ex-Man United player is going to come in as our director of football and defeat Newcastle, Brighton, Man City when it comes to recruitment? I can't wait for this. And don't say Van der Sar, because Van der Sar has never, you know, a lot of people say Van der Sar wouldn't be up to it. Like, a lot of people say, actually, at Ajax, it wasn't him that did a lot of the stuff. So, look, all right, let's say Van der Sar. That's one. But a lot of people say Van der Sar actually wasn't that good at, you know, he gets a lot of credit for stuff that Overmars did. So, you know, maybe you want to look into that. Van der Sar. Okay, I like Van der Sar. You bring him in. Who else? Who else are we going to bring in? Who else are we bringing in, Mohammed? Who else are we bringing in as our CEO or director of football who used to play for Man United? And that's the problem. You're going to be scratching around looking for somebody who hasn't got a bloody clue, when we could go and get Paul Mitchell. We could go and get Berta. We could try and get Dan Ashworth. We could try and get proper, experienced talent. And that's my whole point. You could try an ex-player, but why? Why does it need to be an ex-player? Go and get the best. We've never done it. So go and try it and let's see what happens. Job says, let's get Bex and Van Nistelrooy. Yeah, well, let's get Louis Zaha as well. Wes Brown will fancy a job as well. Yeah, let's all do it. Can all start singing in a circle, singing Wes is at the wheel or something. I don't know. I mean, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous that people don't want to go and get specialists because they want... I've played the game. And we need specialists. Specialists. That's what Man United need. Would you do it, Mark? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Khalid says, Sheikh Jassim has earmarked more Man United legends for roles at the club if his offers are accepted. David Beckham is just one of them. Look, if we get Qatari money, it might not matter how many ex-Man United players you get in. But if we get Qatari money and they give Beckham the director of football job and Gary Neville the CEO job, I'd very much worry about what we're going to do unless they're just figureheads and David Beckham goes, I'm the director of football, but then he gets Paul Mitchell to work underneath him. And Gary Neville goes, I'm the CEO, but he goes and gets a proper CEO underneath him. I don't think Gary Neville or David Beckham or any ex-player who really cares about the club would want to be CEO or director of football anyway, because it would just be a vanity project, and they don't need a vanity project. I think there are things that they could do as ex-players in a ambassadorial role or an advisory role or maybe a board role that could be very important. There's a lot of people on the board of Man United you don't even know who they are. And you can sit on the board of Manchester United and you can have a say on all sorts of things. You know, the right sort of vision for the club, you know, what sort of stadia, the infrastructure around Manchester United, sponsorship, things like that. I think Gary Neville would be quite good at that, actually. You know, he knows the area. You know, he's into business himself. You know, he's built a lot of things. Cares about the area. You know, there might be a board role for him, but I don't want them involved in the football side of things. I don't want them involved in transfers because there are specialists out there that can do that role, and you don't need to get your hands dirty. You don't need to get your name, you know, damaged by that. The one player I actually thought was heading in the right direction, and nobody's even mentioned him in the chat, and how he left, I think, was a little bit unfortunate because I think, I think he was heading in the right direction, was Nicky Butt. I think Nicky Butt actually was earning his stripes in that whole sort of area between the youth and the senior team, but you know, we've got to go and recruit the best, in my opinion. With all that noise that Sir Jim's camp is putting out about the sale, would that be an indication of Sir Jim being in a losing position, says Kevin? I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know whether Qatar's going to buy this club or Sir Jim's going to buy the club. Sometimes over the last 9 months, I felt Qatari in relation to the bid, and then sometimes I've thought Sir Jim's going to get it. I don't know. And one thing I will not do, because it's not fair on me and it's not fair on you, and we've all fallen into the trap, and I thought it was brilliant what Fabrizio said on the interview I did this afternoon. Fabrizio said that, you know, there was times over the last 9 months, very credible people have said, this is so close, 90%. I mean, that was, I didn't even talk about that. On the show this afternoon, I can't remember what the question was I put to him, but Fabrizio said there's been times over the last 9 months where very, very credible people, very high up, have said that, you know, it's very close to Qatar getting the club. And he even said it was at 90%. You were that sure it was going to happen. So, and I don't disagree with that. You know, we've spoken to people, probably not as high up as Fabrizio does, but we've spoken to journalists and business people who've said at times, you know, Qatar's really close. And that's why now I won't bother doing it, because there have been some very credible people out there saying this is really close to being announced, and then it doesn't. So, you know, if you think this deal with Qatar's close, fair play. Enjoy that hype. But I won't jump on it because I think we have been told it's been really close before and it hasn't materialised. So, you know, I still hope that we get a full sale. I really do. but I still wouldn't be surprised if we're still asking for this in a year's time, and I still wouldn't be surprised if there was some deal done with Sir Jim. But I tell you what, I'll be very, very consistent on this. I wouldn't care one bit if some super millionaire came in and offered 6 billion and bought Man United tomorrow. You know, completely left field. I wouldn't care if Amazon or Apple or Elon Musk or whoever else swooped in with 6 billion and says, I'm buying the whole club and clearing the debt. I mean, it doesn't have to be Qatar. In fact, in some ways, I'd rather it wasn't, because they already have an identity with PSG. I'd actually quite like it to be a different club. A different club. Football talk. I'd like it to be some billionaire outfit. Bill Gates, says Smitty. But I'd like some big billionaire outfit to buy Man United. I was very intrigued by, and it's not going to happen, but I was very intrigued by by an Amazon or an Apple buying Manchester United. And people were like, well, how would that work? It's a massive corporation. But the way those corporation works is they have different sections within their business, don't they? So if Amazon or Apple bought Man United, they'd basically create a section in their business that ran Manchester United. It would be the football section. And what they do is they do, well, like what's happened at Newcastle with the people that, I can't remember what her name is, Angela somebody. They just get a CEO and they'd employ a director of football. They'd have a section of their company that would run Manchester United, and they'd recruit the best people to do it because they'd want a return on it as well. So I would love to see that happen. But, Qatar represents that as well. For me, it's a full set. It's never really been about Qatar. I think some people, I want Qatar, oil me up. In some ways, I don't want that. It's the attraction to Qatar is the full sale and the clearance of the debt and the money to rebuild Man United. That's what I want. And the grass will be greener. Might not mean we win titles. You're still up against what people think is you get bought by Qatar and we dominate football again. Has anybody actually said this? When we get bought by Qatar, I hope we've got a few people who are realistic here, because for some people, they might be selling their soul to what they actually want to happen. I'm very realistic. If Qatar buy this football club, it will clear the debt and it will reset the club and it will give us an opportunity. But if anybody thinks we're going to dominate football like we did under Sir Alex Ferguson, I'll tell you right now, you're very, very much mistaken. I think Qatar makes us competitive again. We will never dominate the Premier League in its current form. We won't. Man City aren't going anywhere. Newcastle aren't going anywhere. Technically, Man City and Newcastle will be richer than the Qataris if they own us. We will just be competitive again. We will not dominate football. And I think there are some people in our fan base who think if we get bought by Qatar, all bets are off and we'll win everything. We won't win everything. We won't win everything. Real Madrid won't go anywhere. Newcastle won't go anywhere. Man City won't go anywhere. It will just make us competitive, which we haven't been for 10 years. City are dominant now, Roger. Come on, Roger says so. City aren't dominant. City are dominant, Roger, but it's only the way that Tyson Fury's dominant. But if another boxer gets in the ring who's as big as Tyson Fury and can fight like Tyson Fury, do they dominate Tyson Fury or do they just go toe to toe for 12 rounds? That's what I mean. We'll be able to get in the ring with Man City, but it doesn't mean they're going to, jump out the ring scared. It'll just make us competitive again, which is what we need to be. I don't think we'll ever see what we saw under Sir Alex Ferguson again. But I think some of our fans think Qatar is going to mean us we'll dominate. We won't. And it will take about 5 years from the moment they take over as well, which is why we just needed it to we need it to happen quickly, don't we? Anyway, look, I'm rambling on here. Can I just say, I actually quite like the international break because we get to talk about things that we don't get to talk about when the games are going on, because it's preview, match reaction, watch-alongs, and that's great. But I really enjoyed the last international break, and I've really enjoyed tonight. In fact, tonight's probably been one of my favourite shows in a while. So I just want to be, I always appreciate you. I look forward to tomorrow night's show and morning show as well. But there's lots for us to discuss over the next few days. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. You get the real ones on the international break. The fake fans piss off, don't they? And I don't know what they do for 2 weeks. Do you think they cut the grass, or Trim the grass to make the yard look. I don't know. Anyway, loved the show tonight. Thank you very much. Thanks for all your support on the FC24 career mode as well, if you've not caught that one up today. And don't forget, tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, Goldbridge Saves Football podcast will be landing. So if you've got to go to school or work and you're commuting or you're in your car, don't forget, I can be in your ears. From 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, Goldbridge Saves Football. Just search it, follow it, get your notifications on, and you'll have it ready in the morning for you. Thanks everyone for watching. Also, link in the video description is there for our Christmas tickets. That show is coming together lovely. Confirmed attendees at the moment. Ricky's going to be there, Kev's going to be there, Beth's going to be there. You got Faz, Adam. There are more, I'm trying to think. A lot of the people from the forum. Me and Will are probably going to do a little 10-minute Goldbridge Saves Football Christmas special there. So we've got gifts, we've got Christmas quiz, there's drinks before and after, there's loads of stuff to get involved in. So get your tickets while you can. It's in Manchester in December. When they're sold, they're sold. Links in the live video description. Take care, everyone. Speak to you later. Thanks, everyone. Really enjoyed the conversation as ever. Stay safe and thank you.